everyone and welcome back. Today I have some very exciting news, which is that I am currently in the process of becoming a book editor. So yes, we're doing a little bit of a career pivot and I'm really excited about it. I know some of you will be wondering what that means for my online life and what I am putting out here, and we will get into all of that, but let's start with the editing itself. I have my notes here so I don't forget anything. For a while I've known that I wanted to add something more traditional back into my working life, something I can just get on with in the background that will use some of the skills that I have garnered over the years. And also I've been moving away from a lot of the things that I had been doing online. For example, brand work. I really don't seek out a lot of brand work anymore or do much brand work at all, which is really how most online creators, influencers make the bulk of their income. So you are not going to see a lot of sponsored stuff anywhere anymore, unless it would be absolutely silly for me not to do it. For example, I did a Skin and Me job a few months ago. I use my Skin and Me daily dose every night, so it would be crazy not to work with them. But yeah, I became very disillusioned with all of that, so I knew I needed to add something in elsewhere. And you will have noticed I've made books more central to my online presence as well, and to my working life in general, and I have found it so rewarding, so wonderful. I absolutely love talking about books. They are really my life's passion. I thought about various different things I could do that would allow me to continue working with books. And the two things I ended up kind of landing on were either book editing or going back to university and doing a PhD and maybe going more into academia again, which I am not ruling out for the future. It's not the right time at the moment, I don't think. I've actually thought since exploring this whole world that I think agenting is wonderful, and because most of all when it comes to how I want to work with books, and if I was to work in sort of the publishing world, I want to be on the author's side, you know, I want to be fighting for my author. So agenting I think is a great job. Anyway, in terms of things that would be a good fit for me right now, it was kind of book editing seemed to be the thing that would be the best fit. But I knew that if I went into a more traditional role, started as an editorial assistant and tried to become an editor that way, that I would have to give up lots of the things that I really love doing online. So I would have no time to dedicate to book club, which I love running. I love the community that we've created over there so much, and I would really have to set aside a lot of that. I also really love doing the Substack and writing about books in exactly the way that I want to write about them, and I knew I would have to give up a lot of that if I went into a more traditional career. Reason being, of course, that I'm also a parent, so that time outside of work hours I wouldn't be able to dedicate to the extra stuff as well. And this often happens to me. It was about 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep and I had a huge headache, and this is always when I make big life decisions. But anyway, I was Googling around book editing and I discovered you could be a freelance book editor. How did I not know this before? I don't know. But as soon as I saw that this was a possibility, I was like, right, that's it. Easy. I stumbled across this lovely lady's blog post. I can't remember her name now, but I will link it down below. And she had a few training courses that she suggested. So then I thought, okay, I could do some training courses, and I definitely knew, because I know a lot of book editors do a lot of them don't start with any training at all, especially when we're looking at the developmental side of book editing. So basically reading something and saying, oh, this doesn't quite work, or this does work, rather than the nitty-gritty stuff. So I knew I probably could make a start on some of that already based on the skills that I've picked up. Obviously, I did my degrees in English literature, but certainly in the last few years as well, and I've been reviewing books online for a long, long time. But certainly in the last few years through book club and more recently through Substack, I've really been honing that skill of figuring out what it is in a book quite specifically that makes it work, what doesn't work in various books, and yeah, why some books read better than others. All of this stuff I've been really immersed in and thinking about for the last few years. So I feel like this is excellent training for developmental editing, but I knew that I wanted to get some professional training just to make sure I knew what I was doing, and that, you know, if I'm selling services to authors, if I'm selling services to publishers, that they can have confidence that I'm providing the best possible service. Anyway, so I was then looking into courses. I became a member of the CIEP, the Chartered Institute of Editing and Proofreading, and I shared that I was starting to look into this on Book Club. And my fellow member shared that she had also decided to maybe pursue a career in book editing and had signed up for a editing certificate with the University of Chicago. And I looked into this and the course just immediately appealed to me. I really like that it took you kind of start to finish through various different editing skills, because of course it's quite a diverse area of publishing and there's lots of different types of editing. So it took you through all of that, would hold my hand through all of those things. And there was a kind of clear path through all the different stages that would really give me all the skills that I needed to become a qualified book editor. I liked the fact that there was lots of assessment involved, that we would get lots of time with people with decades in the industry, and the University of Chicago produces the most comprehensive style manual in the English language in the world. They're well known for this. They have high standards for this kind of thing, and I was sure I would get a good education through them, because I looked at a lot of the ones over here. Obviously this is an American course. I looked at a lot of the courses over here and they were a little bit more piecemeal or quite condensed, so you might do like 2 or 3 days learning over Zoom. But I quite liked that with the Chicago course it was like it's at least 9 months to do the whole thing. You can do the modules by themselves as well, but in order to complete the certificate it's about 9 months. And I just wanted to have that pathway, return to the material again and again, week after week, because if I do one of those condensed courses, I'm just going to forget everything. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to learn, especially if you're doing the copy editing stuff. And so I decided to sign up. So I'm currently enrolled in one of the University of Chicago's professional certificates in editing. They have other ones as well, I think. And so how it works is you have to do 5 modules, 4 of which are like the core modules, and you have to do 1 elective. I think I will end up actually doing 2 electives. I have already completed 2 of them. So there's basic, intermediate and advanced manuscript editing, which is essentially teaching us copy editing. And I will go into the differences between the different types of editing in a minute. So in basic manuscript editing, we essentially just read the Chicago Manual of Style chapter by chapter and were assessed on it, so tested on it. In the intermediate one that I just did, we were then applying those skills to longer pieces of writing, so copy editing and just general copy editing tips, like, you know, the process of how you go about starting to copy edit something, and working on slightly longer pieces. I don't know exactly what's involved in advanced manuscript editing just yet, but I presume again we'll be looking at longer texts and looking at more thorny problems. And then the 4th core course we have to do is editing electronically. So we have to, obviously there's lots of tips and tricks you need to know about Microsoft Word and Adobe and that kind of thing, just to make sure that when you're editing, you're being as clear as possible to whoever's going to read your copy edits and whatever. You know, you have all of the software skills that you need. And then, yes, the 2 electives I think I'll be doing like a developmental editing track, basically. So I'll be doing Introduction to Developmental Editing. I'm actually doing that next. That's the next module I'm going to do, and then I'll be doing developmental editing for fiction specifically. But they have other ones like grammar for professionals, which I am tempted by. I think I might do one of the CIEP grammar ones or something like that, just to brush up on my grammar skills, particularly like, you know, the parts of a sentence. They also have like an acquisitions course and other bits and bobs. So so I'm taking them online. We have 1 Zoom class a week. We have various different assignments every week, usually kind of in the last one it was like a shorter exercise and then a longer copy editing assignment. We have discussion boards that we have to contribute to, etc, etc. So yes, it's about, they say about 6 to 8 hours a week. It's not loads, but it's not insignificant either. And I have learned a lot, I think, a lot. And it's been wonderful having the time, like actually just listening to people with lots of experience talk about it, because you pick up so many little things that if you read the books, you might skim over or you would never know. So many little tips and tricks on you know, how best to work, etc. I have opened my books, so I will leave my email down below if you would like for me to help you with editing. I've looked at a few manuscripts already and it's been so wonderful. I've really enjoyed working on them. And my rates are a little bit lower at the moment, obviously, because I'm not fully qualified. But in terms of the different types of editing, I'll explain it in terms of like the process of getting a book published, I think. So the first would be, I've done a few manuscript assessments, which technically isn't exactly a form of editing, but lots of editors, freelance editors, will offer this service. So I would read your manuscript and then basically create a report saying what worked, what didn't work, what could be improved, and some suggestions for improvements as well. Then there'll be developmental editing, which is much more in and on the manuscript. So I would mark up the manuscript with more detailed notes about what works, what doesn't work, how you might change something, where you might move things around, or where you might want to expand on a particular character or scene, or you might want to cut scenes. The developmental edit is a lot more time with the manuscript, a lot more hands-on. Then it's not generally something people tend to do anymore, really, or it sometimes gets, all of these have a little bit of overlap, but it sometimes gets co-opted into another form of editing with a copy editing or something, but line editing. So especially for fiction, I think someone would go through kind of line by line basically and stylistically clear it up, make sure it's clear. So you'd be just clearing up for kind of clarity, concision and style, making sure that it all sounds like you and that it all has a cohesive style to it. I don't think I would ever offer line editing by itself, but yeah, as I say, it's not really, I don't think, something that like publishers particularly do anymore, but I would be happy to do it myself for you if you feel like you need it. Then basically when the manuscript's in almost the correct shape, you know, the big developmental edits have been done, it's readable, it's looking really good, then you would do your copy edit. So this is mostly mechanical changes, so making sure that all the commas are in the right place, the right things are capitalized, the right, you know, numbers are correctly either spelled out, not spelled out, all the mechanical bits which make it look professional and make it ready for publication. There might be a little bit of line editing here and there when it comes to copy editing, just in case if things are not concise or things are not clear or things are not cohesive. But yeah, the line is a little blurry there. There'll be heavy copy edit, light copy edit, I'm sure you can imagine. And then finally there'd be proofreading, which is when the manuscript is usually like typeset, so it's ready and how it will look as a book, and someone will just go through and absolutely make sure there are no final mistakes in there. So proofreading, you're not making any major changes, you're just checking for those last little bits. In terms of what I'm providing, I imagine for most authors who are looking to get traditionally published, when you come to me before you send out to agents or query agents, you're probably looking for like a manuscript assessment or a developmental edit, something kind of big picture level before it goes out to agents, before it goes out to publishers. I know that agents these days also do sometimes a little bit of editing themselves before they send out to editors in publishing houses, and I'm hoping to maybe come in at that stage as well. So if you are an agent and you don't have time to do developmental edits on like a promising manuscript you have, you just want someone to come in and do some of that with your author, I would be happy to do that too. So do get in touch if you're an agent and you would like some help with that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I imagine when I'm working with authors directly before they're querying, and when I'm working with agents, I'll be doing that, like, you know, the big picture stuff. And then I hope to also at some point in the future offer copy editing and stuff to publishers once I'm qualified, because I do know how to do it, and I also know how to do it for non-fiction. I can do you some tables, I can do you a reference list, but yeah, it's not something I can imagine many authors would want me to do before they query an agent, because that a publisher will almost always do, will always do a copy edit before it's published. So I can't imagine that many authors are going to come to me for that before it goes out. So I imagine myself kind of working down the line with authors and the various different people that they employ as they get closer to the publication of the book. But yeah, so my books are open. So if you would, and do I recommend you get an edit done before you query agents? So future me answering this question Here again, I absolutely don't think it is completely necessary. For sure, if you feel like your manuscript's in really good shape, you could query some agents and see what happens. But I personally, because I think editing is a really important step, I do think it's a good move if you're looking to invest in your manuscript, having someone else's professional eyes look at it. I think is probably surprisingly helpful. And also, I think a lot of authors sometimes might come to an editor if they've started querying agents and they're just not getting a lot of bites. That's also a great time to look at an editor. So yeah, I personally, if I was writing a novel, I would look to employ an editor before I started querying, but it's totally up to you. It's not necessary, but I do recommend, obviously, because I think editing is a really valuable part of the process, and I think it can really help authors in all sorts of ways, actually, like holistically as well as anything else. So yes, that's my final thoughts on that. So that's the different types of editing, and I should pretty much be trained in all of them by the time I'm finished. So yeah, if you're interested, please email me below. The most important thing I need to know is your word count. So yes, the next question is, what does that mean for YouTube? I know I've had a lot of questions about vlogs. When am I doing vlogs again? Will I ever do vlogs again? And the reason I have not answered this question or talked about this at length here is because I'm actually just not sure. I just don't really have an answer for you. I'm always a bit wary of kind of making statements like of any kind really on YouTube, because you start to invite outside opinions. And what I've been trying to do, even if they're like very kindly offered and even if I agree with them a lot of the time, what I've been really trying to do is kind of be led by what I personally want to do and really like listen to that within myself, because I don't think I've always been very good at that. Over the past year, 2 years, I've really been trying to listen to that voice. And that's why, again, once you kind of say things out loud, they tend to get like taken away from you. So I'm currently operating on a basis of making what I want to make week to week, month to month, with no big strategy. So if you see what I'm making, just know that it's the kind of stuff I want to be making. And I'm currently not in a very vloggy place. I've been quite enjoying taking a lengthy break from vlogs. I think because I've been doing this for such a long time, my brain had become really guided by the pattern of vlog making. So I would do something nice and I'd be like, ugh, I wish I had my camera here to vlog this, or, you know, this is a waste because I'm not filming this. And you always kind of have like an internet lens on, like, how will this be received by the internet? And it's been very refreshing to take that off for a little while. Again, that's not to say I will never do it again, but yeah, I'm well aware that I've been on here again. I've been on here for such a long time. I also know that everybody goes through ups and downs with this and cycles, and sometimes it is a cycle and you end up being like, oh, I could make vlogs again. I'm happy to make vlogs again. And sometimes you reach the end of the road with something, but it's very difficult to tell which part you're at. Like, I don't want to say, oh, I'll never do this or never do this again, because I just don't know. And I'm really trying to sit in that uncertainty, but it doesn't come across very well in the internet, which is a place of certainty. So yeah, I'm enjoying a kind of level of brain privacy that I've not had for a long time. And in general, of the like big picture stuff, like I have had a huge mindset shift on how I see the online world, which has obviously guided some of these decisions. But again, there may be a way of me making a certain style of content whilst staying true to this mindset shift, if you know what I mean. So it's not the be all and end all, but certainly I've had a big shift in how I've seen online content, and the internet is a very different place to where it was when I started this in like 2010. It's a very, very different prospect. And I think this change, when I sort of decided to stop vlogging, which again wasn't really a decision, it just kind of happened, that was a culmination of many years worth of thinking and of change, which started probably when my daughter was born in 2021, but possibly even before that. I think I had come to a point where I really wasn't creating things that were very me. It didn't feel true to me. It felt kind of stuck in the past. Now I think I'm living much more like what I want and my values, and like who I am, and who I am is books. No, I don't know, I've just kind of grown up, I guess. Everything I'm saying and I'm about to say as well is not a criticism to anyone who is doing things like I did them or is vlogging still or anything like that. I'm just speaking about myself and like my feelings and my attitude towards the online world. And yeah, I think I've changed. I've just changed, and that's okay, I think. Change is hard, but it's good. And this has been a long season of change for me. I'm ready for some stability. No, but it's hard, but it's good. You can't stay the same, you know. And as I say, you know, the internet is very different from when I started. And I suddenly got the feeling of how like exposed I was. I'm quite a private person in general. Yeah, I felt very exposed all of a sudden. And I really saw the beauty of privacy. There's a book that I want to read which is about this, but I've heard a lot of people paraphrase it. You know, privacy is very precious, and we kind of give it up. And it's not like, you know, anything crazy. I was vlogging, like I wasn't vlogging very, very intimate things, but nonetheless, I still felt exposed. I think opening even your lunch choice up to the world, you know, and like letting them comment on it, after many, many years, it started to feel like it was kind of chipping away at my sense of self. Again, it's nothing bad that anyone said or done, but it's an odd way to live, I think. It's slightly unnatural. I'd also gotten sick of myself. I think I really felt that I had run out of things to say about myself or things that I was doing. And I think probably many of you who maybe are around my age feel similarly, that I just wasn't very interested in myself as much anymore. You know, obviously I pour a lot into my daughter, and I just find it so much more interesting to talk about books. Like I don't buy a lot of stuff anymore at all. I really felt like I'd kind of run out of, yeah, things to share in some ways about myself. And the second major thing was that I became aware of myself as my daughter's mother. And so although I don't share her face on here, I don't really share much of her at all, especially since I stopped vlogging, she is protected in that sense. I suddenly became aware that even by showing my life on the internet, I was still giving a lot of information about her life, just because I am her mother and we are intertwined with one another. And when it comes to, say, the house, for instance, I think childhood is like very, very magical and almost like mystical, and such an important time in someone's life. It's a very precious time, and it passes by in a flash. And the home in which you have your childhood memories is kind of like a bubble of that mystery and magic, I think, in some ways. And I felt that if I really made this place a kind of set for the vlogs, she would come back and maybe watch them and see that I had made this place shown this place for an audience, not for her, not for us, not for our memories, but for other people. And that also it was a set for adverts or whatever it might be. And that would maybe override some of those magical childhood moments. Is that a little far? But you know, I read a lot of books, guys, so this is where my brain goes a lot of the time. This should be a place which I don't think she should feel is exposed even in its very walls. I know that will frustrate so many of you who really are interested in seeing the house, and you will see the house in bits and bobs. And I also think there's a difference between like vlogging and filming in a house versus like showing you stills of parts of it. Like you will see parts of the house 100%, but whether I will do like these big tours or vlog in this space in the way that I imagined I would, I don't know. Like, this is her childhood home and she is my number one priority. And I don't know if that makes sense, but at the end of the day, I guess the only person it needs to make sense to is me and to her. So yeah, I'm just leaning into this idea of like doing what feels right, what feels right in the moment. And tomorrow, what feels right might be different. But right now, this is what, like, it makes me calm. It makes me happy the way I've chosen to do things. And there may be a way for me to like vlog my working life in a way that I'm totally comfortable with, and that may very well be the case in the future. So again, I'm not ruling out vlogging. I'm not saying, you know, you'll never see parts of the house. And there may be like new types of videos. I would like to experiment with like new types of videos, which if you're interested, you know, if you still like the monthly roundups, please let me know, because they take so much of my time, and I'm thinking to myself, could I be using that time better doing something else, experimenting? So we'll see. But I know also lots of you really want to see my old vlogs and old videos again, and again, I feel comfortable with them down at the moment. I know a lot of them meant a lot to all of you, and I really, really, really do understand that. And I'm really sorry that I can't reconcile how I feel with how you feel about them. Yeah, it's like having your younger self perpetually on the internet. It's kind of like having, yeah, like a time capsule of you like forever playing on the internet. It was time to just say goodbye to some of that. So I'm currently happy with them being down. You know, I was playing around with putting them up somewhere else for a time, but I think at the moment I'm happy with it as it is. And I know that will be really disappointing to a lot of you, and I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, as I say, that I can't like reconcile the two sets of feelings. But yeah, I have to do what feels right in my soul and what feels like me, and like I'm putting a version of me out there that is the current version, that is the grown-up me. Because yeah, I'm a bit of a people pleaser, and that's why I've just taken some time to really like think through these things myself. So it's really easy for me to listen and do what other people want me to do. And for a long time, I think it made me make things that I wasn't like really proud of or interested in. And I haven't really been happy with like the quality of what I was producing for a long time. So it feels nice now that, you know, I put a lot of my focus obviously on Substack, on Patreon, and I'm producing a lot of work that I feel proud of, like producing the videos that I do about books, because I feel like I'm like providing a good service and hopefully pointing you in the direction of books that you will love, helping you read a little bit more as well. But yes, the change has been endless. This is why I'm not a process person. I'm very bad at showing the process of anything. I like to like come to the end of a thought and then share it. So that's why it's been tricky for me to share, because I still don't feel like I've come to the end of the endless career change. Every time I think I've come to the end, I add something else in, or think I'll do this instead, or I'll change this. Some things really work, some things totally don't work, and having to always figure out what to do next and how to make it work has been a challenge. It's been a lot of change. It's been quite exhausting, especially because I think because I had done YouTube since I was like 15, I think a lot of it obviously had become, in a way that work does, I think, for a lot of people, but had become sort of such a part of me that it's been a big psychic move to switch up what I'm doing, and also know that I'm pissing a lot of people off in the process. It's been right. I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm really excited about becoming a book editor, helping authors get their manuscripts into the best shape possible so they can hit the world in the best way possible. I've been very lucky that I've been privileged enough to be able to switch things up in the way that I have, and I don't take that for granted at all. I'm basically trying to create my dream career, and I'm so lucky that I am able to do that I'm able to, you know, carve a working life for myself, which allows me to talk about books in the ways that I want to and work on books and with books, because yeah, they are besides my family, my friends, they are my life's passion. It is a privilege to spend a lot of my time with great works of art. And very importantly, I have all of you to thank for that as well, especially those of you who are part of Book Club, who are part of Substack, but everyone really who's just been watching for such a long time. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this without all that background, and I am really grateful to
everyone watching who has been following along for such a long time, because I would not be able to do this or be here without you. Even if books isn't your thing and you're not particularly interested in watching whatever I kind of make next, I'm still so grateful to you for following along and being a part of this journey. So I just wanted to say a big thank you as well.
So yes, so that is everything for today. I hope all of that made sense. Thank you for listening today, and I will see you again soon for my monthly book video. Bye.